All right, in this video, I want to save you at least the next 10 years of your career growth or make up for all the wasted time in your previous 10 years of the attempt at career growth. Now, I have been through the ringer in this tattoo industry, just in this life, generally voluntarily. Now, I think that's the one thing that we all need to do as stage one is take a good hard look at ourselves and be super, super fucking honest with ourselves. What have we not been willing to do, knowing that it performs in other businesses? The reality is we aren't honest with ourselves. We aren't accountable to ourselves, and we have zero follow through on all the stuff that's required either on the front end or the back end of our business. We want to do what's right there smack dab in the middle, which is producing the product and working with the clients. Absolutely. But if you really, really want to grow, you need to think of yourself as the most important element of the entire process. Because without you, without your belief systems, without your capabilities, without your skills, none of the other stuff is possible. You cannot do more of what you love in the middle if you are not consistently focusing on the front end. So the one thing that I learned the hard way was that the worse I felt, both mind and body, the less likely it was I was going to be able to stay as consistent as I could with my clients. When I was going through my process of redesigning, rebranding, or just redeveloping me, it really boiled down to, okay, what are my action steps? Where do I feel the most miserable? So I started going through the stages. You know, I had high days, I had low days. It was all just like a mental state kind of thing that was really bogging me down. Some days I'd wake up just motivated as hell. Other days, just nothing. I had nothing in the tank. So I just kind of rolled out of bed. It took me a while to get up and move in. I'd show up to the shop a little later than I'd like, so that everything is urgent and rushed. Other days, fire run on all cylinders, ready to rip, getting things done. So what did I have to do to be able to maintain that kind of attitude, that kind of energy throughout the duration of the day, throughout every day? Well, I started putting myself first. I started thinking that the first three things that I did was going to set the tone, because on the days I was winning, I was like intently taking action to win. On the days that I felt behind, I was taking no immediate action. I woke up feeling lost, feeling empty, not really doing the stuff. So I just brushed it all off. So I had to create a system and I had to create a structure. Insert red, yellow, green system here. This is where I really started prioritizing my red. The first thing I do, the first thing I think about, and the first actions I take have to be able to charge my battery and fill my cup, so that I know I can take all of that into the rest of my day. For me personally, it was my mental health, my physical health, focusing on my nutrition, focusing on creativity for me. I'm a man of faith, so getting into the scripture a little bit, but read a fucking book. I don't care what you do. This isn't a faith-based program. But you have to do stuff for you that is going to get the brain moving, it's going to get the feet moving, going to get the heart racing, going to get you feeling all fired up. When you start your day this way, it will carry over into how you start to view your business, because red is you, yellow is work. That is money-making activities. That is where you are truly going to start doing your output. You're going to start doing your content creation. Most of all, you're going to start having conversations with clients. You're going to start setting up consultations. You're going to start making a little bit more money, because that energy is going to be infectious as you carry it from red into yellow. So your yellow is going to be your high performance time. That leads us into green. Now, green is earned. All right. You have to earn your green. If you do not do red and yellow, you don't get green. Not only do you have to replace your green time with the shit you didn't do, but even if you try to force your green time, your mind is going to race and you're going to have anxiety about what it is you didn't do earlier in the day. So when you follow through with everything, you get your green. If you do not follow through with everything, you still get the shit done that's most important to your progress. You gamify your life, which creates massive levels of not only momentum, but scalability. The next thing that I had to do was I had to take a good hard look at where I was, and most of all, who it was I was around. When I really looked at it, because the tattoo industry saturation thing has been going on for a while and it's just gotten worse and worse. But why is that? Is it because everyone in this industry is created equal just because they have a participation ribbon? Not a fucking chance. So what makes each individual different? Well, talent plays a big factor, obviously, but if everyone comes into one industry and everyone is talented, at least to some degree, then everyone is deemed average because of that. So what do we have to do to rise above that level of saturation? We have to add additional skills. So I started really focusing on what it was that I had been neglecting in my business. Why is it that I wasn't able to get more clients? Even though I thought I was amazing, and even though the clients that I worked with said I was amazing, why wasn't I getting more of that, at least to the level I thought I wanted to? Well, it's because I was just laterally marketing. I was tattooing on people that were most similar to me. And when that becomes the case, not only does the well run dry, but we also have to take into consideration if we aren't accountable people, we are not marketing to accountable people. We cannot convince a client we are better than we truly are unless we are manipulating them to believe that we are something we are not. So I started not only working on myself and how I communicated, the tonality, the delivery, again, the energy levels, and I started networking over marketing. Now, networking puts me in rooms that I feel most uncomfortable in. I'm not marketing at places I would normally go. I'm networking where people would normally be that I wish to work with. And I would go into those rooms and obviously I would stand out like a sore thumb. But because that was the case, and I would just shut my mouth, I would listen, I would engage and interact a little bit. And then all of a sudden I would start getting into the topics of discussion. Then I found myself getting to make really good relationships with more valuable individuals, learning what their interests are, how their lives look, and understanding the fact that just because I'm a tattoo artist, it doesn't make me less or more. It just makes me curious. And curiosity is where our creativity comes from. I also stood out in a really positive way because obviously I was the only one in the room who looked like this, sounded like this, and does what I do. So people were more inquisitive and more curious about me. As long as I wasn't there solely to talk about myself, I was going to start creating relationships, which is what tattooing truly is from a client perspective. So the game that I played was I would just ask questions. I wouldn't allow the conversation to come back to me until I had asked enough questions to build that level of trust with that individual, because we all know everybody likes to talk about themselves. That's the world that we live in. Use that as a strength. Ask more questions about the people. Get to know as much about them as you can before you allow yourself to try to boast. All right. It is going to change the way that you acquire clients. And another strong thing that I learned through this process of was as you communicate, as you put in more curiosity to every conversation, and as you really start to understand more about everyone else's reasons why, you are learning how to sell, because sales is not the cringy part. The close is always the uncomfortable part. And that's just because you haven't provided enough value for the number to not matter. So as you get more curious in conversations, you learn to be more curious in your sales process, which then brings us into being able to take all of this new networking that you just did to how it is you set up your consultations. So the one thing that worked really well for me, especially right about the old pandemic, was the fact that I could still set up consultations with these new networking circles. I was doing Zoom calls with people across the world who were in social settings that I wanted to know more about, or in businesses that I wanted to know more about. And so what I wound up doing was just offering consultations via Zoom. This is for convenience. This is for time management. This is for a magnitude of things. But what it wound up doing was it gave me windows of time so that these clients knew we have 30 minutes, we have 15 minutes to be able to have this conversation. I love the fact that you're here. I love the fact that you're curious about what it is I can provide you or offer you through the tattoo process and above. So tell me a little bit more about yourself. And we would spend about 10 to 15 minutes on this call, just learning more about each other. Why we do what we do, why we want what we want, how the things can really relate moving forward. And that does all of the sales work for you because you're building that relationship again. Then when they start to ask about what the process is, deposits, payments, and all that, I would already have a link queued up for the deposit and be like, all we have to do is get a deposit paid. That way we can not only dedicate that to the time I spend creating the art that you want, but also to hold your times moving forward, because I personally like to book multiple sessions at once instead of waiting one by one by one. It just takes too long. It's way too daunting, and it doesn't really help us with our consistency of completion of projects. So by doing so, then we already utilize the excitement from that conversation to lock in a client through the deposit. From that deposit, now I just have to make sure that I have something set up, or I'm personally going to reach out to this individual at least one time before that tattoo to ensure the fact the excitement is still there. That was built from the consultation process. Now, this is how we go from wanting more, but knowing we're empty, to filling our own cups, to being able to take that version of us into better social circles. Those social circles are then going to be our vertical networking opportunities. Those vertical networking opportunities are then going to move us into the opportunity of client acquisition. From client acquisition, now we're converting into sales. From converting into sales, then we have to really focus on, okay, this is where we are at that sweet spot. This is where we are in the middle. Everything I just said is front. That is top of fucking funnel. Now we get to do the stuff in the middle that we love. That's the tattoo. That's the experience. That's the design process, all that shit that we were just built to create. But what can we add to that to make it the most valuable experience? Because you may have heard the interview that I did with Rob Bailey, where when he wants to get a tattoo, because he's not a heavily tattooed man, if he wants to get a tattoo, he's looking more for the individual and more for the experience than he is the art, because he knows if he can trust the individual and that conversation carries into something more fruitful, then he knows this person is going to be able to design something that is more designated, more designed for him specifically, instead of something that's just kind of carbon copy or cookie cutter. So, okay, take that into consideration. Now we can add a lot of different variables to what our offer stack is. Now, your offer stack is going to be anything above just the product. What else comes with the product? It's going to be a quality experience. It's going to be a really good culture. It's going to be a really deliberate environment, so you can get to know what the person's favorite music is ahead of time, what their favorite movie is ahead of time, what their favorite food is ahead of time, so you can not only have something for them to listen to that they like, something to watch that they like, or just be able to provide them with a meal if it's a longer day session. These all go into the offer stack, all right? Another thing you can do is you can set up a once a month photo shoot with a professional photographer, where all of your clients for that previous month can come in with healed tattoos, get professional photos done. And that's just something to sweeten the pot. You can have a videographer come in periodically to capture content if you're working with influencers or people who run businesses. And then you can collaborate everything with those clients. By collaborating with your clients, you are now marketing to their social circles and the people that engage with their pages. Now, all of this works really, really well, but you don't have to do it all. You can. I recommend doing it all. But even one of these things will change the trajectory of what it is you do and why it is you do it, so that you can start working with more people like that. Because again, if you are laterally marketing, then you are only going to get a lot of the same stuff you don't want. So you need to vertically network so that you can get a lot more of what it is you want. But what I will tell you is working with more quality clients is going to require more quality lead nurturing, which is time and attention. You will need to build a lot more trust with a quality client on the front end so that you can get them into that middle of funnel so that they can help you with the back of funnel. Now, back is always going to be the client retention. How do you keep this client? How do you turn this client into your salesperson? And how do you build a reputation within their social circles? And that is just going to be what it boils down to, as long as you deliver and you are consistent with what it is you promised, and then go above and beyond and you outperform and over deliver through front and middle of funnel, then the back of funnel becomes pretty easy, but it does have to be consistent, because client retention is going to be one of the most valuable things for any business to grow. The number one rule of business is don't not make money. The number two rule of business is learn how to make money faster. And the number three rule of business is learn how to create additional sources of income from individual products produced. And that can just be as simple as converting one quality client into three quality clients because of the reputation that you build with that first individual. If this is something that you can learn, you are going to do amazing things. if this is something you struggle with, that is the reason that we built the Force of Focus. Now, this doesn't just work for top tier artists. It also works for people who are just coming into the industry. And I recommend really contemplating the value here that you can add to your business model, because most people don't have a model, they have methods. And methods are things that are always going to have to be rewritten, always going to have to be adjusted. Methods are more like, trends, where models are things that you can do and you can consistently add to, because it's only going to take you higher and higher away from where all that saturation is that you're trying to escape to begin with. So if you don't even have a business model right now that is performing, or that you know anything about or aren't consistent in, this is the perfect place for you. Whether you're at year 1 or year 20, everything about what we do here is going to increase your ability of output, not only in your own personal life, but in your business and in your clientele acquisition. I strongly recommend you already be a professional artist. I strongly recommend you already be talented in what it is you wish to sell more of, because I'm not going to teach you how to tattoo. Don't have the time, don't have the care to, not even going to touch it. But when you have talent, I want to show you how to build skills around it that will make that talent more valuable, and show you how to be able to target more valuable clients so that they see what it is you do as luxury. How often do you hear people say, well, tattoos are a luxury product? Okay, so mathematically, if it's a luxury product, you should try to sell it to luxury consumers, so that you don't have to chop prices or cut yourself off at the knees altogether to present it to not luxury individuals, to poor people. I mean, that sounds fucked up, but I don't care. So the way we do that is you become a luxury provider of a luxury product that services luxury clients. And then you no longer have to worry about it. You can make things more luxury once you become it, but you don't see Walmart selling Rolexes. So who do you want to be? And what are you willing to do to get there? Now, if this video resonated with you, if you're more curious about this kind of stuff, please do not hesitate to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm bringing people in to interview pretty frequently. I'm also going to be providing you with all of the value that I have in my 20 plus years in this career and as a professional artist.